Hey, welcome to another episode of Checkpoint. This is our Final Fantasy, well, I guess Final Fantasy 15 episode, but
No,
more just the
the
Final Fantasy episode.
the Final Fantasy 15
FF15 episode. I'm your host, Ryan Rugged and Marshall. Co-host, what's his name?
Mike Uonway Spanish.
What do you want to talk about? What are we going to talk about?
Let's start slow. We'll ease into it.
Yeah.
Let's just talk Final Fantasy.
Okay.
What is your favorite
Good
all-time
question.
Final Fantasy game?
So, I feel like there are the two that if you asked a Final Fantasy fan, there are the two that most people would say. And I feel like it's usually if you're very like Western influenced, you're gonna say Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah.
And if you're a true RPG, like from the heart, a lot of them will say Final Fantasy VI. I've actually never had the opportunity to play Final Fantasy VI. My first entry into Final Fantasy was Final Fantasy VII. But those are neither of my picks. My favorite Final Fantasy is Final Fantasy X. I don't know if it's just like
that.
it kind of like I don't know if it's like because of the time it came around. You know, I was like at that age to where like I was a little bit older than like young Ryan playing Final Fantasy VII versus a little bit more by no means mature, but at least age-wise mature version of myself that played Final Fantasy X.
Yeah.
I remember it came out like on the PS2, and like I got it. Went to my EB Games back when that was Electronics Boutique actually, when that was still a thing. I went and picked it up and like went home and I was just playing it and like I don't know, like I had one of those moments, like the same moment I got when I played like Metal Gear Solid. Actually, the same moment I got when I did play Final Fantasy VII. Just kind of like just being blown away. Like the graphics were gorgeous.
Yeah.
I loved, that was the last entry in the series that had the like sole like standard, 3-on-3 turn-based combat. I as if any of you know, you guys definitely know, and anybody that's ever listened, I love fucking Blitzball. I mean, I don't know why it's not already sport. Maybe it's because we can't breathe underwater. I mean, that just seems like that's fucking.
No.
That's just we'll figure the logistics out of that later. I could literally play, like, I mean, I can't believe that there was a fucking Quidditch video game that came out like on GameCube and PS2. But I can't get like my own
But there's no
full-fledged Blitzball
Yeah.
video game.
That's a good point.
Yeah, so I don't know, I loved it. I loved the characters. I loved, I'm a big Star Wars fan, and Orin essentially is like a Jedi, or like a fucking samurai or something like that. So I always really like that. I just like the gameplay, I like the characters, I like the setting. I will say I'm not just like total fucking coming all over it. Like I did not like, and I even did not like is a strong word, but I'm so on sin. Like just the whole concept of sin. I don't know. Like sometimes I'm like, okay, no, actually that's pretty cool, and like I get it. Like it's kind of like a commentary on our society, but then at the same time I'm like, okay. Oh, by the way, spoilers should go out for this entire episode. Because I'm gonna spoil some Final Fantasy X right now, and we'll talk. There's gonna be some spoilers.
I think we're good 15 years later.
But like the whole
on
like,
Final Fantasy X.
objective sin and shit, I'm just like, get the fuck out of here. I was like, all right, but ultimately it was still my favorite. And you know what? If you asked me this question a year ago, it might have been Final Fantasy VII. If you ask me this question again in a year, it might be Final Fantasy VII again or 15. We'll have to wait and see.
It could be 15.
But so far, Final Fantasy X is my answer. How about you?
Yeah, I agree with what you said in the beginning. I think a lot of our generation started with 7. That was the first Final Fantasy I played, so it's easy to look at that and be like, first Final Fantasy, it was so good, revolutionary. 10 was revolutionary, with everything it did. Mine is pretty off the beaten path. Mine is actually Final Fantasy Tactics. That style of game is just kind of in my wheelhouse, and
yeah,
the customization in that game, and like I never played, I haven't played all the way through 3, but getting to play 3 and having the job classes and stuff like that, I think 3, could potentially be my favorite if I ever get a chance to play it. But Tactics, just I felt like it had a good story. I felt like it had a lot of depth in gameplay and a lot that you could do. difficulty wise, it's up there in certain parts, just depending on how you spec your class and stuff like that. I know a lot of people kind of hate on it because if you spec a certain way, you kind of just, blow through the game and it's easy. But when you're, 12 years old and you've never played this game before, you have no idea what's going on. You have to strategize and really think of a plan and whatnot. It was, I like strategy games. That's kind of why it's
absolutely
my favorite Final Fantasy. So
sure. Any final thoughts?
No, man. Let's get into it.
Let's just get our fucking dips our dick in.
No, I just wanted to touch a little bit on our favorites because, like you said, 15. In just a few months, we could consider 15 our favorite Final Fantasy.
Yes, absolutely. And kind of speaking to what I said about Final Fantasy 7, Final Fantasy 15, I think, the developers and Square Enix is like really wore on their sleeve that like this is obviously a JRPG that is very much Western focused as far as like this is like as far from their standard, I would say, like as most of their RPGs go, and they're like, we really want this to be, I mean, it even says it, the opening page or whatever, it's like Final Fantasy 15 for fans and newcomers alike or some shit like that. And I definitely think that that's very apparent in a lot of ways, even down to like the Coleman fucking brand of like tent or whatever, like that's like a legit brand that you can get at like fucking Dick's or whatever like that.
It's definitely an Americanized game.
And
I never saw one.
And it doesn't have to be a bad thing. Like I feel like right at the gate, like you could be a hardcore like RPG fan, or maybe specifically a JRPG fan, and like want to shit on parts of the game that are like, well, like one of the first. I mean, if you go watch reviews of this game right now or read reviews of this game right now, one thing that people tend to be shitting on is like the combat, that they made it like, this combat is like overly simplified and everything like that. And like what I love about the combat is it's like simple to understand. But it's like one of those things that's like it can be as complicated as you want it to be. Yeah, sure, you could sit there and hold circle, and just kind of do that.
And just mash circle the whole time.
Right, and but then or you just hold square, but like that doesn't mean you're gonna always parry, and that doesn't mean you're always gonna do your warp strikes and throw in different combos of different weapons and magic, and we will get more into the combat later. But like my point being is like I think that they've really blended your JRPG and your Western RPG like beautifully. Like I'm having a fucking great time. And I'm we talked a little bit before this, but I'm about 4 or 5 hours into it, and it's like I feel like I've not even started it yet. I'm still just in the fucking opening area, just getting my fucking bearings. I have a little bit of story that I've seen and heard, done a lot of side missions, done a lot of hunts, which I really like. But I'm also a big Final Fantasy 14 fan, and that's a big part of 14 is just you got these hunts and stuff.
Right.
But right out the gate, I'm digging it. How about what are your initial thoughts?
Yeah, it's similar for me. When I first got in, I think you get some of those as you're getting the feel for combat. Touching on that point, I kind of felt the same thing where I was like, I don't know if I'm just super excited for this game because of the hype, because it's been 6 years since we had a Final Fantasy, and it's been 10 since we had a good one. Not excluding MMOs, right. Those are a whole different, league, but 13 wasn't that good.
I'm looking at our executive producer right now.
Yeah. But it was fine. He apparently loved it. It was fine. It was a good Final Fantasy, but if you compare it to all the other Final Fantasies, or even just modern Final Fantasies, to me, it's pretty close to the bottom. Of start with 7 to 13 is pretty close to the bottom for me. So 12 was way better.
I like 12 a lot. Yeah.
So
side note, getting a remaster of that coming out on PS4 and Xbox One.
Oh yeah.
I thought it was this month, but I don't know exactly when it is. Anyway,
it's sometime soon. So it's been some part. I just felt like there was so much hype. I'm so excited to have a Final Fantasy to play. But then, as you get deeper into the combat, as you upgrade your, your abilities and whatnot, the combat is exactly like you said. It's as complicated as you want it to be. You can and sometimes I do just sit there and just mash circle, just to, especially for kind of like a random encounter where I'm kind of just passing through an area and a bunch of guys popped up and okay, well, they're lower level. I'll just mash circle. I don't need to worry about being creative or anything like that. But you can very easily. I think I was level 8 or so, and I did a level 11 hunt, and you can kind of mash circle to get through them, but you're a lot more efficient. You get higher ranks, you get more experience and more bonuses if you kind of do combat the right way.
Yeah.
And use your abilities and use your techniques and, kind of link things together. So the more I played, the more impressed I got with the way that they did things, the way that they put things together. They really, man, so our producer,
Gabe.
calls it what was that, Final Fantasy Shenmue something, Final Fantasy Secret of Mana Shenmue mashup. They did such a good, and I think that's accurate, but I think if you just look at Final Fantasy games, they did such a good job of, there's some 13, there's some 12, there's some 10, there's some 7. There's all these. I feel like there's a lot of modern Final Fantasies really rolled up into 15, and some of the best parts of a lot of them.
Yeah.
And that's what I've taken away, and I'm only 8 hours in. I'm not really that much further than you.
Mm-hmm.
That's my big takeaway so far, is that they've rolled up not just the the little quips and quirks and I think Pronto or whatever his name is.
Pronto, yeah, you got it.
He sings the the battle theme from hums the battle theme
dude,
at one
how
point
cool
from
was
Final
that?
Fantasy VII. And so that was like a cool like nostalgia thing. But not even just those, not just rolling in those little quips like it's late and I was up late playing the game, so I'm only half thinking straight right now. But
no, I do remember when he's saying that. I was just like, it's just like one of those, like, I'm already having a great time. I'm enjoying everything.
Right.
And I think it was like maybe the first time I camped or something like that, or maybe we were in the car and he was like, da, 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 and I was just like, oh, just like it doesn't matter how tired I was, my eyes lit up. Like, it was like such a cool little Easter. I mean, it's not even an Easter egg. I mean, it's in the series, but still, it was like a fun little, and I feel like I hear it every time I level up now, or maybe every time I camp, you hear it now, and
there's lots of little things here and there, just as little like sound bits and stuff like that. But like hunts, kind of started in 12, and and that's in 14, and
yeah.
There's been other little things that you've noticed, the ascension tree, which we'll dive into more in a minute.
Yeah.
It feels more 10-ish.
Yeah,
even though very condensed at this point. I don't know if it expands out later, but very very 10-ish. Our producer Carl confirms it does expand out, which was something I'm going to bring up later.
Fucking Carl, man.
Carl, that guy. But that's very 10-ish, so it's I've really enjoyed these. So we got a dying cat sound in the background from somebody else's mic. I don't know. That's kind of my.
No, I
rolling up all these old ones into such a good game.
I definitely feel like the look, not necessarily the setting per se, although I think the setting will eventually get there. I definitely get a 7 vibe, like with the look, a lot of the blacks, a lot of like the sort of bigger swords, even like the hair and like just kind of the styles of everybody. Very, very, very cool styles. I guess also when we were kind of talking about old nods, like I am fucking loving that you can change the radio station, and it's just like, and you could like buy like the Final Fantasy VIII CD, and then you could just go through that house. I'm like,
that's awesome.
I'm digging it, like how because Nobuo Matsu, who if you don't know is the composer for the Final Fantasy songs, is next to John Williams is one of the greatest composers of all time. So I just like.
Great stuff.
I mean, dude, there is like not a bad Final Fantasy VII song. I think I think it was really cool. Also, adding to the westernization of the genre a little bit, adding Florence and the Machine does kind of Stand By Me, which is like the sort of like theme song.
Yeah, that was really very,
Yeah,
very
it's really
interesting.
cool.
But it was cool. Yeah,
and I love Florence and the Machine. And it's not just for no reason. So they make that song because kind of the overall theme of the whole game, in which I mean, from what I know, just from the previews of the game, and as I'm learning, as I'm playing it, is like the core group of guys, which is Gladios, Prompto, Igni, and I'm blanking on the fucking main character.
Noctis.
Noctis, yeah, Noctis. They're like childhood friends, and Noctis is a prince, and they're like childhood friends, and that's the whole point. Is like they're like through thick and thin, they're sticking together. Just some fucking just broing out, which I love. Like I think that's gonna end up being such a cool aspect of the game that I really look forward to seeing later. But going back to what I originally said, yeah, I'm loving just like like here's the thing. So like video games in general, like when it comes to traveling, it's tricky because for instance, a game that just recently got dinged for it was Mafia 3, that there's no fast travel, and it's kind of a boring setting. I'm not maybe not boring setting is the wrong word. It's like it feels like it could take a long time. Yeah. Although I do think Mafia 3's music's fucking stellar. But like I just feel like while I'm playing, well, it's like that late. It was like that 60s and 70s or like late 60s. It was just really good. Like Otis Redding, Dock on the Bay. Anyway, so it's like I just feel like I don't mind driving in Final Fantasy. Granted, you're not always driving. Igni's driving, but like I'm just like kind of like I'm just chilling. Listening, and we're all talking, and it's like very Uncharted 4, where like it's like constant conversation, and it's like relevant to what's happening. You're blasting fucking Final Fantasy 7, bombing runs music or Final Fantasy 1's main theme, and you're just like twirling the goddamn camera around. It's fucking gorgeous. And I'm just saying like this is a game right now that has made traveling not feel like such a fucking chore.
Yeah, it's not been too bad.
I like that. Like, and I mean, yeah, and you can still fast travel. I'm sure. Like, I'm saying this now by the end of the 100 or whatever hours I put in the game. Like, all right, I started fast traveling after a while.
I would say fast travel becomes important pretty quick. But it's where they work in. You have to. It's sort of like Skyrim, where you have to manually travel to wherever you want to go, and then you can fast travel. At times it's been a little dull when it's like, so I went from like the bottom of the map to the top for to go get an extra quest or something like that, and it took like 7 minutes or whatever. I don't know if it's quite that long, but it took a while. It was like 3 miles or whatever, and I'm just like, okay, well, I don't need to touch the controller, I don't need to do anything. Like, it was cool to look around for a while.
So it felt like driving.
But yeah, it kind of felt like traveling for a little bit. So they're really, really long. Like, if you're like, oh man, I'm going to go from the story point all the way over, to the other side of the world just to, to pick up some side quests because I don't have a quick fast travel in between. That could get old. But like you said, there's a lot of good. The visuals are great. There's cool music to listen to.
Good dialogue.
They talk. That there's some entertainment value. So it's not. I'm not saying it's poorly done. It's just there is some dullness to it at times.
Yeah, I think at one point was driving, and the thing is, like, I think I even like looked away for a second and like looked on my phone, and like when I looked back on the screen, like Noctis was like sitting up, like with his like feet on the seat, and he was like kind of sitting with his like kind of half out of the car, and like him and Prompto like high fived. I'm like, what a cool I don't know. It's like it doesn't mean anything, but it's like a cool little thing that they did.
Well,
like our EP and I, we've constantly talked about like little things that happen in games that developers don't have to do, but they do anyway, and we love that they do them.
So I do want to point out one little thing, and I was thinking about this, and I think I talked about it on stream last night is when it happened. It was raining during one of the scenes, and you turn off the paved road onto a dirt road, and it's muddy. And it's like, you can see that it's a little slick, that it's a little muddy. You can see the mud building up. You kind of, I don't think it really like forms grooves or anything, which is fine. But you get that interaction at all levels. And they didn't need to do that. It could have just been a dirt road where it rained and things were wet, and that would have been fine. Nobody would have complained. People would have, the nitpickers maybe would have pointed it out, but I wouldn't have cared. It would not have changed my experience for the worse. But since it's there, it's changed my experience for the better, and it's just a little thing that they probably didn't even have to put that much effort into. So taking the extra time to put in that little bit of extra effort to, like you said, the little things. That's what's probably going to make this game great versus good.
Yeah.
If that continues throughout the game.
Before we really get into like the gameplay, what are your just initial thoughts of the 4 characters?
Boy bandy a little bit, but
boy bandy comes from buddies.
Which is that's probably my only criticism is when you're running around, they're like, oh, it's so hot, so take off your jacket. Like that's gotten a little old.
That's actual dialogue. That's like...
So you took off the jacket within the first hour? Yeah. Which is kind of, that's another, that's like an X2 thing where you can change costumes.
Yeah, dude. So you start with 2. You have like which I didn't even realize, which is cool, and I think we'll maybe find more about. Like your like starting outfits aren't just like random; they're like actual like royal. Like they're like royal. That's what the royal outfits look like.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. And then you have like a casual outfit, which is just like it's like jeans and a t-shirt and like Pumas or something like that. I don't know if you get more outfits. I hope you do. That's kind of.
I think that's cool. I would assume you do, because what I like about the starting outfits is every single one. Well, the casual ones don't have any stats, but the 2 like royal ones or whatever, one's a health outfit and one's a strength outfit. So there's already strategic value into how you're going to switch or what kind of outfits you're going to wear, and so. They kind of make comments and in the tips and stuff, if you have those on, about there will be more outfits. It's as you buy and find outfits, they have statistical boosts that you can use to for different situations.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure there's resistance ones for certain boss fights.
Right, like poison or something like that.
Especially for the special boss fights. Final Fantasy is, I think, notorious for their special boss fights being impossible. And you need everybody's got to have the fire resistance, gear to properly take down or at least one guy does to properly take down, a certain boss here or there or something like that.
Right. Yeah, no, I like, so, I mean, I'm a little biased, but I definitely get the boy band vibe.
Yeah.
But, so, I joke with, our EP, and I always say that there's always like every video game that comes out, there's always like my archetype character built into one of the characters of the game.
Okay. So who are you?
And sure enough, fucking Prompto, the gunslinger, and then his fucking specialty is a photographer, and you guys don't know this, but like my actual day job is production, where I do some photography and videography and everything like that. But I thought that was pretty fucking, and he's like kind of like the smart ass of the group. But yeah, I definitely like the characters. It's obviously some sort of stereotypish kind. There's like the big guy that's like the sort of a little bit more reserved, strength, brute.
Yeah.
There's like Igni, seems like he's a little bit older, a little bit wiser, kind of quiet. Yeah, then you have
and he's the magic user. The nerdy guy, like not as strong. He's the magic user.
He's got the glasses. Then you got Prompto, the sort of like smack talking guy with the gun.
Right.
And then you got Noctis, the sort of like calm, beneath the storm kind of thing that, but I'm digging it. Like I'm really looking forward to learning more about them. I like the whole friends thing. I mean, friends are important to me, like as they should be anybody, but like I'm like looking forward to like exploring that, because really like not too many games like really tackle like these are like my best friends, like like Stand By Me or Stranger Things or something like that. It's almost like you're all adults, but it's like at the same time like some coming of age story that you don't get anymore. You get a lot of 80s movies like that. And I'm still looking forward to that. And I like them. We got the cool car.
So kind of leading off of that with the, that's kind of story related. How are those friends and, how is their relationship going to affect what happens in the future? Which, side note, some of the decisions you can make decisions in this game. Some of the decisions you make can be, like, you can ask your your buddies what they want to do, or
Yeah,
like
like
people
for
can
like
interject into the conversation of their opinion and stuff like that. So I think that has those relationships are going to be a really big part of the story. But being so early, we don't know a lot about the story.
right.
I know very little more than you.
Well, and that
What do you think? How do you feel like they've started to just set it up and progress? It's
so
kind of
I
typical,
kind
like
of
every Final Fantasy starts with a wedding that, of some kind. You're getting married or someone else is getting married or whatever. It's like a...
well, and so I was there's actually a little story there. So I fired up the game, and it finally downloaded, and I had my buddy over, and he was just like, he was super stoked to watch it. And I kind of made it, as it was literally loading up, I kind of made like a teasing remark, like, oh, like, how long do you think the first cutscene is going to be, or the opening is going to be, like,
Yeah.
and he's like, oh, it's going to be at least 10 or 15 minutes. A lot of Final Fantasy games will throw, like, somewhat of a large chunk of, or like a large chunk of story. You might be
Yeah.
playing, but it's like, a lot of dialogue, or like, and like, I was like very surprised that it's like it kind of just like throws you into the game. It's like, here's a little bit of story. Here are you and your three friends. Here's your fucking dad. Okay, cool. Now go have fun. And I this is gonna be maybe a controversial opinion, because I know our EP does not he hates this game, or maybe hates a strong word, but I'm actually getting a lot of Metal Gear Solid 5 vibes of some of how the game is like, just because it's like like I said to you, I'm about 4 or 5 hours in,
Mhm.
but a lot of that 4 and 5 hours is like kind of just been going around doing my own thing. Like I have, like, not that I've been neglecting the story. Well, no, I guess I kind of have been neglecting this. Just doing side missions, leveling up, exploring the world. And obviously it's not quite exactly how Metal Gear Solid 5 is, but like that's what I said to my buddy that was watching. I was like, I kind of get like some Metal Gear Solid 5 vibes. It's like you can be more linear. You maybe don't have to go do the hunts. You don't have to go look at every treasure chest. You could just kind of go from point A to point B to point C of story. But you can kind of stop and smell the roses every once in a while. And there has been, I know, like, this obviously can change quite a bit once I beat the game. I already know, like, just from watching some of the reviews, that it gets a little bit more linear later and really story driven. But like right out the gate, I was like, kind of got some Metal Gear Solid 5 vibes, which is I don't see that in a bad way at all. And I was like kind of surprised by like how they didn't really like pour like a really like story heavy narrative. Not to say that that's not going to come, and I actually kind of hope it does, because I really like that stuff.
It should, I imagine.
It will. I mean,
Yeah.
I know it will. But I like that it's just like, I think part of maybe why they did it was because they're trying to just like introducing you to the world and just like kind of letting you figure some things out for yourself, before they really get like, heavy exposition or something like that. But yeah, to be honest, I don't really know a whole lot about the story right now. I just know that these are these guys. You're a prince, At this point, you're going to a wedding, and you're kind of with your buddies trying to get there, and like that's kind of where I left it. Like I don't really know too much else. Like I'm really looking forward to like learning as much as I can about it. But yeah, like I am nothing but hopeful. So
Yeah, I think that's a really good point too. That the story, there wasn't a 7 minute, opening cutscene. There was just a short little, here's what's going on. You're sent to, off to go get married, and you're not really sure as the player if Noctis is happy about it or not happy about it. They don't really, like, it doesn't really go one way or the other. You get these happy memories, but he's like kind of this grumpy emo kid at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Mad at his dad, mad at the world, or whatever with it, and like I said before, his buddies kind of around him to, support him through whatever, crazy time he's going through. So, you kind of, at this point, really, even where I'm at, you're still forming your own opinions on what the story is, where we're going, what, how should he feel about this? I can kind of, immerse myself into his shoes, and there's lots of different storylines or story paths that it could go on.
Yeah.
And I really like that so getting back into the taking ideas from other games, Niflheim from Final Fantasy VII, that the same name or same region or whatever, I think it was seven, pulling that into another game and using it a little differently. Lady Luna Freya, it's straight out of Final Fantasy X.
Yeah.
I it's been kind of cool that I hope it doesn't go too crazy with that, where like every storyline arc is kind of just pulled from another game. Like I don't want to be playing the stories from 7, 10, and 12 all at the same time. That would maybe it'll work, but I would rather get at least a little bit of originality in it. But it's cool that they've looped those in. Like it's not, it's a new Final Fantasy, but there's a lot of old vibe.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like the story is also you can get and our producer left Kingsglaive. Is that prequel? Okay. So yeah, so there is a
right.
Okay, yeah. So there is. I wanted to mention this as well because if you only ever played a game, you're having what I'm talking about, where it's like a very open-ended beginning. But there is, for those of you that are more interested in like diving deeper into the lore of what's happening, there is a movie that came out, a CGI movie, Kingsglaive. Aaron Paul's in it, Sean Bean's in it, so I imagine he'll die at some point. That kind of is a prequel to what's happening in the game. So that could be like a little extra. Like it seems like I would hope that the developers had the hindsight to be like, okay, not everybody's gonna see this, so like we need to make it make sense without the movie. But like for those of you that want the extra experience, the extra immersion, the extra lore, you could catch Kingsglaive, which if you get I want to see you get the like deluxe edition. Yeah, it comes with it. I actually haven't seen it yet. Mike, did you see it?
I have not seen it, and that's exactly something that I meant to point out, and then it just whooshed right over my head. Yeah, Kingsglaive is. Whoosh. I know it's a prequel, and I know it adds some of the story value that we're missing. Mm-hmm. But it's not necessary.
Yeah.
I'm sure it adds a lot of value, and
yeah.
Our executive producer. Sorry, I keep hitting my desk. Right.
Yeah.
Right. So probably what I just found out is what Kingsglaive kind of sets up. I just got into chapter 2, and there's a something kind of big happens, and I think that's what Kingsglaive sets up. Sort of this, this.
Do not get Kingsglaive confused with the Alec Baldwin Final Fantasy Spirits Within, which is also a CGI movie, and probably has Sean Bean in it. Sean Bean likes to poke his fucking head in a lot of shit.
Yeah, sure does.
But no, I think we're both in agreement, or in agreement that we are excited for the story. Don't quite know a lot about it quite yet. You can learn more if we watch, or you watch, or I watch, or you guys watch Kingsglaive.
Yeah, but the progression so far, it's progressing.
Yeah, at a good rate, and it's like a rate and it's a rate that you want it to be. So like I said, you could speed through and do story, or you can kind of like I'm doing and what you did, take your time a little bit more, do some hunts, check out the area. So I kind of want to talk about we're already running low on time.
No.
I just going to talk about. So let's talk about a little bit of the actual mechanics of the game. So all right. We touched on combat a bit. What are your initial thoughts of the combat?
It's good. It's fun. It's fast paced. I haven't tried this yet. If you go into settings, there's a wait mode. I don't know how you could possibly play this game in wait mode. But
so it's wait, you haven't tried it yet?
No, I haven't tried it. That doesn't. I don't know. I like
all
the
it
flow
is
of active mode.
I tried it just because I'm that kind of guy. I like to go through the options a lot of times when I'm first starting a game. Basically, what happens is when you're not moving, the game kind of stops and there's a slow ticker where it's it'll eventually start back up. Maybe it's even super slow motion rather than actually just stopping. Yeah. And at that point, you can sort of scan other enemies and see some of their strengths and weaknesses. I tried it. and I didn't like it just because I felt like it was really taking me out of the game because like I'm not always moving, you know what I mean? So I might be like fighting, one or two or three guys, and then I'm like, all right, then I'm like in my head, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna stop to look for like a warp point. I'm not just like stopping for like a minute while I'm looking around like an asshole.
Right.
But like even if you stop for like a fucking millisecond, the game stops.
That'd be annoying.
It was kind of annoying. It just like kind of took me out of it. I understand the strategic benefit of it. It's similar to like maybe a Dragon Age kind of. Well, you're not really queuing up tactics. It just stops. It just stops.
That's what I thought of when you said it.
Kind of scan the battlefield to see what the hell's going on. But it really took me out of it, especially because it's like you said, the combat is extremely fast paced, and it's like I like it because I don't remember if we were talking. I don't know if this would work on camera or not, but I like that it's kind of simple. The combat is very simple in its design, but like it can be as complicated as you want to make it. Like you can sit there and just hold circle. So there's basically two things that you, at its very basis form in the combat, you hold circle to attack and you hold square to defend or slash or dodge. Block or dodge. And if that's all you ever do with it, that's fine. If that's what you like to do, it can be that simple, but it can be way more complicated than that. You can start adding blocks and parries. You can add warp strikes into it. I don't know what it's called, but the L1, it's like your tech attack, where you can basically link up with one of your, what is it?
Techniques.
Oh, so okay, so I was, techniques. So I was tech attack.
Tech attack's close enough.
Yeah, well, it's like a bar. It's a bar that progresses as you're, it's a lot of games have that, like a power bar, similar to like an overdrive. Maybe this is this game's version of an overdrive. You build your bar, and then you can do these tech attacks, which is basically you link up with one of your party members, either Prompto, Gladios, or Igni, and you do like this cool, like very stylized combat maneuver. Like Igni's, for example, is my favorite so far. He's the dual dagger guy. He'll like throw his daggers out, so two or three enemies. And then you're seeing your guy bounce back and forth with warp strikes, and then you get an opportunity to hit like a little mini quick timer. You get to hit circle, and it just looks so fucking cool.
So what's another cool level of that is what you may not have done yet is
I may not have.
You can't do it with Igni, but with Prompto and Gladios, you can link them together. You can use them both at the same time. So
my eyes just lit the fuck up.
And I'm assuming, and this is just with the starter ones, I'm assuming at some point you could probably link them all together with just depending on what the technique is as you get more techniques. So you hold L1 and you hit, you can start with Prompto and then you hit, Gladios. You can actually do either way. And one of them will start the attack and the second one kind of comes in like in sync. And then Noctis kind of comes in behind like he would normally. You can't do with Igni's.
You gotta pump the brakes on me for a second, bud.
Yeah,
you're blowing my mind right now.
It's awesome.
So you hold L1, and then you hit like
you just select whichever one you want. Yeah,
and then you just at the same time you do the other one, or just right there after you hit the other one.
Right. So you hold L1 when you select. So if you were to select Igni, the other two gray out, and you can't select anything else. But if you select Prompto and you still have you have meter left, you can select the other guy too to do another one or to like link them together.
That's fucking incredible.
Yeah, and so the depth of that, what you're capable of doing, is not limitless, but it's adds to that. It's not just don't just press circle the whole time. Right. And I'm sure there's more things you can do when you're like hanging up on a warp strike point or whatever they're called.
I think it's just warp point.
One of those, when you're hanging up on one of those warp points and you set up a technique and you come in, and I'm sure the timing of things is important as you get new techniques later on and things get more kind of complex. So,
well, and then one of the biggest changes to combat, besides just the way you're doing it, is magic. So magic has kind of completely been revamped and wildly different than it's ever been in another Final Fantasy game.
Final Fantasy 8-ish, in my opinion. It's very Final Fantasy 8-ish, where you have charges versus mana.
Yeah, that's true. So you get like you get magic flasks, and you fill them. So I mean, I don't know if you ever get more, but so far it's fire, lightning, and blizzard.
You get more. I don't know if you get more element. You don't get any more elements, but you get more flasks, so you can.
Yeah.
Build
so like
a pool of magic.
Well, and so you don't just have. It's not like you just like learn a magic attack now, and you get to use it. Like you actually have to harvest,
Right.
either fire,
It's a
blizzard,
resource.
or yeah, it's a resource. Speaking of resources, check out the new No Man's Sky update. But anyway, you also have catalysts, which I think the game does a really shitty job of explaining it.
Yeah.
But basically, like how awesome this is now is like you can create these charges, whether it's blizzard, fire, or lightning, and like you can imbue them with all that. Like from what I understand, just about anything you pick up in that fucking game can be imbued into a magic flask and give some crazy ass outcome for an attack. Like one of them, I think one of them off the top of my head is like if you imbue it with I almost said Phoenix Down. If you imbue a magic attack with a Phoenix Down, it can hit like multiple like enemies, and like there's something else that if you imbue it could be like an instant kill.
Yeah.
And it's such a cool.
If you do a potion, it attacks with that elemental and heals you.
There you go, and that's awesome. Like I love
there's all
that.
sorts of different stuff you can do, and I'm sure that gets even more depth as you get further.
And that's exactly my point. And like you didn't like you could just make your fire potion or fire spell and like that's it. But like you don't have to. Like you can make it so much more. You don't have to use magic. Like you can just have your weapons are mapped to your D-pad. You get 4 at a time. It could be a sword, a great sword, a javelin, and a gun, or daggers, or whatever. But you don't. It could be magic, and you can kind of be switching those on the fly while you're in combat and chaining together cool combos. On top of your technique attacks, your warp strikes, your blind side, which we haven't even talked about, which is when you can get behind of an enemy, and you can basically do another separate link attack with your friend. And like another to go back to what we were talking about even in the car with the like little details. Like I love like you'll do like an attack like that and like kind of go down on one knee a little bit because you're just like giving it your all.
Right.
And like so many games you just stand back up, but nope, not fucking Final Fantasy 15. You got a bud that'll walk up to you and like kind of just like help you back up real quick, and like you'll do like a cool like back technique attack with your buddy, and like you like kind of do like a cool back pose. Where, like, you both, like, go back.
I did that happen once. That was awesome.
Like you're fucking like your Rush Hour or something like that. Like Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker doing a back to back. Like that's such a mindless thing to add, but it's like I noticed though. So and like it makes me get into it more because like they look like they're having a good time. And I'm like, well, that makes me fucking have a good time.
Yeah.
And like what makes it nice is like that could have easily been blown up into chaos. Just like 4 fucking guys just swinging their fucking swords around, bumping into each other. But like they make it really good where like you guys look like you're actually like this like unit.
Yeah, it's like a dance.
Taking on enemy. Yeah, and like you're like kind of like rolling off each other, helping each other back up, bouncing off each other, but it's not like it could have easily just been like hacking and slashing while you're all fucking bumping each other's dicks together. Like it could have looked really stupid. Nope, it's not. It's really stylized, and that's a word that I feel like I'm going to use a lot for this game. Is stylized. So I think they do a really good job of doing it. But yeah, I'm digging the combat.
So,
long story short.
Yeah, another thing with the combat too is the way that health works. And so when you run out of, health is super dynamic, where you have your full health bar, and then there's multiple ways that your maximum health can temporarily drop until you go to, there's 10 ways, apparently. Oh, there's 10 minutes.
All right, so
I didn't know why you did that. You just went.
Our executive producer puts his fucking hands up like that. There are.
You're opening the end zone? I don't know what you're going for.
Okay. Well, that's all the time we have for today.
All right, we're all done.
Anyway,
so basically, there's multiple ways that your maximum health can drop, and you have to camp or sleep to get it back up. And when you get to 0 HP, you don't die. You can be, like you said, you can be rescued. Like one of your guys can pick you up, and you can use a potion, and you can get to 75% HP depending on how low it drops. So there's a lot of just people saying combat's simple. They haven't played enough of the game, or they're not looking closely enough to actually see, what this game actually has to offer as far as combat. Yes, I have gone out at night. And nights.
We're gonna get there. But if you're playing if you get graded on your combat. I don't think always, but when you're doing hunts and doing missions, if your finesse grade is low, you are not doing the combat right. You might get like an A plus
Yeah.
here. The finesse, it took me a while because I was like, what? I would get like an A plus for the top one. I forget what it is. I'd
Time.
get like, and then I would get like
Time,
a
finesse, and damage.
damage. So I would get like A plus, D, A plus, and I'm like, what the fuck is wrong? Like, what am I doing? And then I realized when I started incorporating all the aspects of combat, your warp strikes, your parries, your tech attacks, your blind sides, your regular attacks, switching weapons, you're throwing a magic in there. I was like, and then then all of a sudden I was getting, A, and I was like, all right, so it's like really exploring all the options, using all your tools necessary. Yeah, I loved it. And speaking, sorry, EPS. That's about night. I did it once. Like I know you're not like supposed to go out at night because it's more dangerous. Very Dying Light, which is a cool concept. And we were driving, and Igni like freaked out and like swerved the car. But then I didn't see anything. He like swerved. He's like, fuck, we gotta go. And then he like jumped out. I'm like, where the fuck? I was like, why? And I'm looking around. I didn't see anything. I'm like, what the fuck? I was like, Iggy, get back here, goddammit, and drive me. But like apparently it's like headhunters come out or something like that, right?
So I'll explain it a little bit. And this is, I mean, it's not major spoiler, but you won't find out for yourself, I guess. There's demons.
Okay.
Or daemons.
Yeah, daemons. I saw it like the way it was spelled. Yeah.
So there's demons, and they sort of just pop up. Like you'll just be walking along, and they'll just like out of the ground. There's some crazy ones too. An Iron Giant, like I was like level 6.
Like Vin Diesel?
No, not quite. I was just running around the corner going to look for a treasure point, and the ground started to like rumble, and this giant like mass comes out of the ground, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. And I'm like level 6, and this level 30 Iron Giant comes out, and I was like, oh man. Well, let's fight it. Obviously, I'm not gonna run away.
Obviously, yeah.
Yeah. I think it in one hit would just like, so I had like 600 health, and it would just like smash its hammer down or sword or whatever, and like take me to 0 right away. And I was like, oh, like that's not good. So I try in the process of trying to heal myself up and run away. Like he hit me like 5 more times. Like I couldn't get away from him.
Mm-hmm.
So nighttime is the scariest thing ever.
That's such a cool concept.
But it's awesome.
So we covered combat. Go ahead. EP's telling a story.
Okay. So apparently at night everyone hates everyone, and you can come across situations where they're all just fighting each other. So that's probably a really cool scene.
Like a random event, kind of.
Yeah. That makes me think of Rift, the MMO.
Yeah. Or 14.
Where it's just chaos everywhere.
Yeah, 14. You'd have like the community events, and people would be fighting, and so we talked about skills, we talked about magic, we talked about combat. I guess we didn't really talk about skills. We can talk about the Ascension trees. We're running out of time. Ascension tree is pretty cool. It's like the way you level up. It's similar to the sphere grid. If you want to know, check it out. I kind of want to talk about our co-op expectations.
Yeah. We can kind of skip over the rest of that. It's stuff we can talk about later, and I'm sure we will.
So they've gone on record in saying that there is for sure going to be I don't know exactly how to say it, but a 4-player co-op mode that will come out as DLC. Mm-hmm. I think it has to, well, it doesn't have to be, but I feel like it'll be some version of like a survival mode or like a horde mode. I don't know if I could see it being like an actual like story campaign or it could be like a spin-off story campaign where it's like, this like 6-hour thing that you can do co-op. I just feel like it'll be like, or like a hunt mode or something like that. Like you and 3 friends can go on hunts or something like that.
That's more what I think. It's either, I don't think it's going to be story driven. I mean, it might have story pieces in it, but I don't think they might give tidbits at best. Nothing major. Not that strictly co-op. I mean, maybe if there's like a DLC add-on, they add a bunch of quests and that has story, and then there's co-op related to that story. Sure. But I don't think there's going to be specific story in the co-op. But it'll probably be made like big hunts, super difficult hunts that take, for independent people, dungeons to get, better gear and stuff like that. Stuff that.
See, now that would be cool. Like, I would like a co-op mode that, if you play it, could benefit your single-player game, or maybe vice versa. I'm not entirely sure.
People have tried to do it. It just hasn't. Well, either the co-op's really good and the single player is terrible, aka Two Worlds, or
Was any of that good? That's true.
Two Worlds multiplayer was one of the most fun, of that style of multiplayer that I've played.
True. It's true. You're right. I'll give you that. Yeah, you're right.
But then, Dragon Age Inquisition tried to do it, and it just didn't take off, I think.
Our producer and I played it for a little while, but yeah, it wasn't very good. It was just
right. So they're trying to figure out how to hone it into, into be like what Divinity has done.
Oh man,
something like that. So we're not going to get into Divinity right now. But
we can't. We would need multiple shows to get into Divinity.
Yeah, we'll see. Well, and maybe that's why it's DLC. They're still trying to hone it in, figure it out, do a lot of testing, and I think that's smart. That'll help the longevity of the game and the series, and I'm excited for it. I guess those are my expectations. I don't know what they're going to do there. Nobody does.
Yeah, I look forward to it. I mean, and then they might fucking knock us out of the fucking park and completely do a 180, be like, oh no, yeah, it's actually like a full-fledged campaign mode with co-op. Like, cool.
Yeah.
Very
awesome.
cool. Well, I'm going to spend the rest of my life now playing this game. So it seems like we both are really enjoying it so far. It's not getting not that I'm a sucker to do reviews at all. In fact, I'm quite the opposite. I will say it once, I've said it again. I beat fucking Alpha Protocol. So...
Every time. Every episode.
He knew where I was going with it. So it's not doing as well as I would have hoped, just because I like to see games and I like get good reviews. But by no means is it doing bad. It's getting pretty good reviews, but yeah, some people aren't. It's not jiving with some people.
I think it. So I was in my first 3 to 5 hours. I was truthfully really overwhelmed. I felt like I was stumbling around in the dark trying to figure out where I needed to go, and then it all clicked. There was just a moment where, and maybe the combat had a lot to do with it, because I kind of had that moment where I was like, oh, I really gotta use these techniques to be efficient in combat and not just mash the buttons and make this feel mindless.
Right.
That was some of it, but then, learning how hunts work and learning how you get information and, how you travel around.
Yes,
and
talk to your
quests.
Let people know that they need to talk to those fucking restaurateurs. Talk to your goddamn local. Yeah, talk to your fucking local servers at the Denny's that you go to in that game, because they'll tell you where everything is around you. It's they took the idea of taking down a little mini base, like in Far Cry. You go and you wipe out the little the outpost, and then all the things pop up. Yeah. They were like, you know what? Rather than having to take out an outpost, we'll just have them talk to a waiter at fucking TGI Fridays, and they'll be like, oh, you want to know what's good around here? Well, there's oil over there, and there's fucking this over here, and it's like, all
and
right.
You can keep coming back to it, and they'll add new stuff.
Yeah, they add new shit.
Yeah.
What a great game. And
so I think it probably resets and each day.
Yeah.
It probably resets and rotates, and so I don't know if you have to find all new ones, but they can't just endlessly add points. That would make sense.
Don't forget to get gas for your car.
Hey, did you run out of gas?
No, not yet, because I'm so good about getting it. It's 10 gil to fill the tank, man.
Hey, Travis, have you run out of gas? You have.
He ran out of gas? What happened?
You have to get it towed, I guess?
All right, so if you run out of gas, you got to get it towed. Man, this is like real life.
Oh,
you need to eat every night. You need to go to bed at certain times. You need to get gas for your car.
Speaking of getting towed, made me think of whatever her name is, the blatant upfront sexuality in the first 5 minutes of the game. I was like, wow, that was Cindy.
Cindy, and it's Sid's daughter, which Sid is
granddaughter, adopted granddaughter.
Is that really what it is? Adopted granddaughter?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah, so Sid,
So you really didn't pay
Cindy,
attention to the story.
her boobs were in my face, so I was not hearing everything she was
Very
saying.
distracting scene.
She was like, "Man, fucking Sydney," and I'm like, "What?" Yeah,
Well, and then she puts gas in your car and like leans over the windshield like
Yeah.
while you're with the cameras in the car.
I let her put gas
Good
in my
old-
car.
Good old JRPGs.
Yeah, I meant dick stuff. Yeah, I like to clarify sex things on here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I like it's up. I mean, it has to be there. Hopefully that might be.
It's just
she even
normal,
has like the
typical
fucking
stuff.
thong popping out and everything, and it's just like
Yeah.
that's real JRPG.
Straight to Final Fantasy 7.
Yeah, it's like a chick
And
right
10.
center in Kagra. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, it sounds like we both like it. It's cool. It was cool to see Sid. He's like he's the snake
in
in
every game.
Final Fantasy.
Every game since 3?
I think so. I still haven't gotten the Men in Black car, so it's right now just the regular car, and eventually you could press a button and make it turn into the Men in Black car.
I haven't updated the car at all.
It's like it turns into like the Batwing essentially. It like transforms into the flying airship car.
Oh really?
Yes. What? Yes.
How,
You need to get that shit.
What do you? Yeah, you haven't even done it to your car, and you expect me to know that you can do it. I don't.
I expect great things from you, Mike.
You're expecting a lot.
Great things. All right. Well, that was our Final Fantasy show. Again, I wish we could talk longer because we could have talked.
We're gonna have to have another one. We're gonna have to have like a 2-month follow-up.
Yeah.
I think.
I don't know what we're gonna talk about next week. Are we still doing? We were supposed to do our racing game last week, but we had some conflicts. You want to do our favorite racing game next week?
Favorite racing game next week. I think that fits. And
You want to hit him with our?
We got some old stuff. We got some new stuff coming up. So I don't know what the topics will be just yet. But
are there any games to look out for? Oh, Last Guardian. Look out for Last Guardian. That's on its way here. I think next week.
Yeah.
Is there any other
Pokemon
games
Sun and
coming
Moon
out?
came out last week, so
Yeah,
that's a big game out right now.
Is there anything else coming out? Either of you know? I know Last Guardian's kind of like maybe the last big one.
I'm so focused on Final Fantasy 15, I kind of blocked everything else out.
Yeah. So, all right. Yeah. Well, we'll be back next week. We'll talk our favorite racing game. We'll talk a little bit more about Final Fantasy, maybe some further thoughts.
Yep.
Mike, where are our links? Where can they go to find out all of this wonderful shit?
You know where you can go? You can go to checkpointmg.com. That has our Twitter, our Facebook, our YouTube, our merch store. It's got everything. Maybe more importantly, a better site to check out is patreon.com/CPMG. That has all our videos. It also has links to all sorts of stuff. You can find out more information about us. You can leave comments if you have questions, or if you just love us, you just want to see our sexy faces every week.
Yeah,
you can tell us. That's the place to do it.
If you do $5 a month, I send you constant dick pics. That's one of the rewards.
It's almost overwhelming.
Yeah, or you don't have to have them.
Yeah.
But, you're gonna want them. I know you're gonna want them. So.
it's not an automatic
saying
subscription.
that you don't want them, but deep down you're like, I fucking want them. You know, I think I'm gonna ask him for it. So
try it out. See how you feel.
At the very least, you can get
you
a
can always
t-shirt.
cancel. You can always cancel the dick pic.
Cancel anytime.
Like you need to.
Nope, no contract. We're like T-Mobile now. All right.
Exactly.
Well,
all right.
Thanks for listening, guys, and goodbye.
We'll see you next week. Later.